right. So I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, September 30th, 2025. We are meeting in a hybrid format. Some of us here at Casco Bay, and I believe Board Member Noor will be joining us online very shortly. Dr. Warren, will you please call the roll?
Member Ali. Member Yusra Ali. Vice Chair Bondo.
Result.
Member Bryden.
Here.
Member Lena.
Present.
Member Noor. Member Noor. Member Opperman.
Here.
Member Sautel.
Here.
Student Representative Fitzgerald.
Here.
Student Representative Kantiba. Student Representative Lee.
Here.
Student Representative O'Brien.
Here.
Student Representative Ziegler. Chair Lentz.
Present. Thank you. Now the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Portland Public Schools recognizes the original inhabitants of the land on which our city and schools stand. The Wolastoqey, or Maliseet, Micmac, Penobscot, and Passamaquoddy tribes, known collectively as the Wabanaki Confederacy, or People of the Dawnland. We are honored to have Wabanaki children among our students today, and as a district, we are committed to making the past, present, and future of Wabanaki peoples visible in our schools and classrooms. And as a reminder of our mission, the Portland Public Schools is responsible for ensuring a challenging, relevant, and joyful education that empowers every learner to make a difference in the world. We build relationships among families, educators, and the community to promote the healthy development and academic achievement of every learner. And our definition of equity. Equity is all people being held to high expectations and having access to opportunities that are reflective of their individual needs, identities, and experiences. Equity is achieved in Portland Public Schools when there are no identifiable differences in outcomes and experiences for any population subgroup. And now we're going to move on to public comment. Beautiful. I see a hand go up on Zoom, and let me just see if we have anybody in the room. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and read the guidelines for public comment. Members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personnel matters or complaints concerning specific employees or students, which shall be addressed through established policies and procedures. If an item is on the agenda, please use the public comment time associated with that item. Comments are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes or 6 minutes for individuals using an interpreter to make their comment. Individuals may not relinquish a portion of their allotted time to another speaker. The board may not respond to comments, and please refrain from responding in the audience. Speakers must refrain from engaging in disruptive conduct, including but not limited to using vulgar and/or obscene language, threatening others using words or by other actions, using pejorative or discriminatory language with reference to a person or group on the basis of their religion, ethnicity, nationality, race, color, descent, gender, or other identity factor, making defamatory comments, exceeding the allotted time limits, talking over or interrupting others, offering repetitive comments, and offering comment on matters unrelated to the school district's programs, policies, or operations. I will stop any comment that is contrary to these rules. To give public comment, you can come up to the podium or raise your hand in Zoom. Please begin by introducing yourself with your name and address. I will keep the time and raise a yellow folder indicating that you have 30 seconds remaining, and I will raise a red folder signifying the end of your time. If you're online, I will verbally say when you have 30 seconds remaining. And if you get to the end of your allotted time and would like to request more time, you may do so. So with that, if you want to come up, Ina. Okay, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Dear Superintendent Scallon and the Portland Board of Education,
I'm speaking here as an individual, a teacher at East End School, and I live in 4 Gorham Road, Wiscasset. I'm here this evening to address the changes on the parent-teacher conferences that seem to be inequitable due to its one-size-fits-all. Being that an elementary teacher has so many things to deal with. We need to talk about special needs, literacy, math, safety even, behavior, and all other things about the students. 15 minutes will not do. And having to know that, and then just at 5:18, I received an email with a lot of different things that has been changed. So I stayed just to express my disappointment in the changes to 15 minutes and then to 22 to 30 minutes. I wish that these changes came with time to allow us to talk about this, to discuss with each other at school. I waited for 6 o'clock to come from 2:30 to join this meeting, and now I have to go home late again. So it's really disappointing to know that. Let's do one thing. If we want to change it, let's change it for next year, not right now. I mean, this is like too sudden. I don't know how that will happen. So that's all I have to say. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. And we'll go to Zoom next. Erin Beal. Whenever you're ready. Oh, did we lose Erin? Okay, let's go ahead and go to Laura Fries. Oh. I just want to make sure we're not losing these people. Greg, are you asking them to move over? Okay. Thank you. Can we do Marley's phone?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Marley, go ahead.
Hi, this is Marley Lavelli. I live at 180 Brackett Avenue on Peaks Island. I have an elementary school student at PPS, and I'm also calling in to express concern about the change of parent-teacher conferences from 30 minutes to 15 minutes. They're one of the few times that parents can engage face-to-face with teachers and with students about students' accomplishments and needs and challenges. And I can just say, as a parent, in the past, 30 minutes is barely enough to actually engage in meaningful conversation about things that come up. So shortening it even further makes it seem like there will be virtually no time to do that, and will limit parents' ability to engage in their child's education, support children, support the teacher, reinforce what teachers are doing. So just a huge limiting factor on parent engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't see anybody here in the room, so we're going to go to Mendo M. Ooh. Okay.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Molly Mendola. I'm a teacher at Reiki Community School. I teach kindergarten. My address is 214 High Street, apartment 2. I am speaking on behalf of being a Portland school community member, again, about the conferences. I'm really heartbroken as a teacher wanting to share my students' growth. I'm discouraged that I feel so undervalued by the district, I don't want to use district, but by the people who have set these parameters. And tonight to get an email at 5:18 after I've prepared something to say to this is just another slap in the face, it feels like. And I'm angry for my community because this is wildly inequitable for families. This change was done without any parent input, without any teacher input. I'm pretty sure without any admin input. And most importantly, I don't think we asked students about any of this. The first flaw that's upsetting about this is the community was not taken into consideration. Several of our families work night shifts and need earlier conference times, which are no longer provided due to the change. This proves that people who made this decision totally disregarded our working families and do not think about a workday outside of the typical 8 to 5. Some families need the 12 and 12:30 so they can get to a night shift. This proves that our families were not taken into consideration. The second flaw, and somewhat selfish flaw, is as a hardworking teacher, there is no wiggle room in the schedule for me to use the bathroom, to get dinner. I'll have to eat after 8 p.m. And then I need to come in and teach the next day and set up for the next round of conferences. Regardless if it's 7.5 hours or 11 hours, it's not enough time. Third, and the most important and hard pill to swallow here, is the fact that I'm still hearing about instructional time. Instructional time is students coming to conferences and sharing their work. Not being able to prep students for conferences is loss of instructional time. So by giving us back PD, our students are not there. I teach kindergarten. In my conference, you'll see a student using counting strategies. You'll see students learning how to write their names. You'll hear book talks and eventually how to read, and students will be reading to you. So these conferences are instructional time. Preparing for the conference is instructional time. My heart is with Portland. I am a dedicated Portland Public School employee. I don't plan to ever leave the district. I love this community. I'm so discouraged and disheartened that this has been a top-down decision without any input from the community. There's been people who have made this decision who have
30 seconds.
not even had time to take the chance to learn our community. And for that, I am discouraged. I love this community and I love my students, and I hope that we can make a positive change and go back to the way that conferences were, because they were filled with joy. And
Thank you,
that is
Molly.
the most important thing as a child at a conference, not a test score.
Thank you, Molly. We can move Molly back over, and Colleen.
Hi, my name is Colleen Wilson, and I live at 202 Dartmouth Street in Portland. And I would also like to echo the frustrations around this new conference schedule that has been proposed and then altered just not even an hour before the school board meeting was set to happen. It does make me question the intentions of the district and whether the changes were simply in anticipation of this meeting happening. And to echo what Molly had just said, this whole process has just felt disrespectful as a classroom teacher and as a community member. One thing I would like to bring up in addition is that even in the most recent update email from the district, it was suggested that the schools could provide subs to cover classes so that teachers had the time to complete all of their conferences. If the focus on this change is on preserving instructional time, I don't understand why releasing teachers from their classroom is one of the solutions that's being offered. I also know that at my school, I teach at Reiki, finding subs and coverage is already an extremely stressing impact on our community and staff and on the services that students are able to receive, because many support staff are often called to step in as subs. And so I'd like to see the district, if that is the only option available, send in some of their own central office employees to work as subs in our building, because I think that would give them some good on the ground experience of what the teachers are working with and also relieve some of the stress on the schools. I'm happy to hear that after pushback from the teachers at the listening sessions, that the time has been extended for subs and that, or I'm sorry, for conferences, and that there's thought being put into maybe more creative ways to make sure that time is available to all teachers, especially those with large classrooms. But it's just very disappointing that all of this happened without any input, and that the process seems to be very backwards and just not trusting teachers as professionals to do the job that we have been assigned to do and have signed up to do. So I am encouraged that there has been some movement and change towards listening to the staff. And I hope that there's an opportunity given to parents and students as well, so that we can come to a solution that works for all of us.
Thank you, Colleen. Next up, we have Laura. Let's move Colleen back over, and then if we could do Laura Fries, please.
Actually not promoting them, they're just unmuting them.
Okay, great.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you, Laura.
Hi, thank you. My name is Laura Fries, and I live at 27 Copley Woods Circle, and my sons attend Presumscott Elementary School and Lyman Moore Middle School. As a teacher myself in a non-Portland district, I have often heard about student-led conferences being held in other schools and other districts. However, it wasn't until my sons actually started at Presumscott that I got to see firsthand why they are so valuable. Both of my sons, who are on the Shire side, 100% stepped up into the role of leading their own conferences year after year. They take pride in showing off their work. They take responsibility for reflecting over the trimester and not only naming the things that they are proud of in their own learning, but also in areas that they want to grow in. Student-led conferences are a vital part of the expeditionary learning model used at Presumscott. Shortening the conferences means that student-led conferences at Presumscott will not be able to happen anymore in a meaningful way. Please reconsider this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Up next, we have Erin.
Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. My name is Dr. Erin Beal. I live on Chimera Hill Road in Wyndham. I'm the instructional coach at Lyman Moore Middle School. I know we as a district love a data-driven decision, so I've brought data for you today from our 24-25 school year conferences. We at Lyman Moore had an 84% attendance rate across the school, which we hope to improve this year, but I think that's an excellent start. I'd like you to know that 45% of our total conferences occurred between 12 and 2:30 p.m. I'd also like you to know that we had more multilingual conferences before 3 p.m., so between the hours of noon and 3, than we did between 3 and 7:30 p.m. We also saw a 20% reduction in attendance when we held conferences on a Friday. We are scheduled to have conferences on a Friday again this year. What this data tells me from our families at Moore is that those earlier time slots are crucial for not only our multilingual families, but for all of our families who work second, third shifts, who have different schedules and different needs. I also question our decision to hold conferences on Friday due to the data showing that there is a stark reduction in attendance. I would like to add that Lyman Moore and Lyseth have their conferences on the same day. If you've been to that parking lot, you know it's barely enough for both staff, let alone adding interpreters and families for conferences at both schools. And I'd have to add that pulling 2 11-hour days in a row as a staff member and someone who holds conferences for her own advisory, that's rough. Not starting the weekend until 7:30 on a Friday evening, that's difficult. I understand and value the importance of instructional time as an instructional coach. Almost nobody values it more than I do. However, it is clear from the data that our multilingual families and our families in general need earlier time slots and time slots that are not on Friday.
Thank you, Erin. Caitlin Marshall.
Hello, this is Caitlin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. So I'm Caitlin Marshall. I live at 101 Ray Street in Portland, and my kids go to Presumscott Elementary. So first, I just wanted to say thank you so much to all of you on the school board for taking this time to listen, and to everyone else who's already spoken and made some really great points. So just wanted to add that I really value the time to connect with my students' teachers, and echoing what some other folks said, that it's just really special to have a conference that's led by students at Presumscott, and just knowing that they need some time in order as a student to go ahead and share everything that they want to share. And it's just a really, really special time to connect and honor that. And then just secondly, that I appreciate our teachers so much. And I know it is sometimes a challenge as someone with like a 9-to-5 job to make it during the school day. But we can make it work. And it just feels like just unreasonable and just not valuing our teachers' time to make them work such crazy long days on conferences. So as a parent, I am willing to do what it takes to make it possible for one of us to be there in more reasonable hours. So then just, wanted to close with, again, saying thank you for this time to listen. I've been encouraged by the school board taking up some other kind of big stuff around like screen use and really like making some positive change. So I'm hopeful that with taking this feedback, it can be an opportunity for the central staff to really hear like, oh, this is a need in our community and we can meet it by keeping conferences a little bit longer and at times that the community is saying is important. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Caitlin. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to give public comment? Evan, go ahead.
Hi, sorry, I'm using my husband's account, but my name is Anya Rosenberg. I work at Presumscott. I live at 27 Van Vechten Street here in Portland. And I just, first of all, appreciate our Presumscott parents who have come out. Thank you so much for speaking out about the value of student-led conferences and for speaking out for us as teachers. And I just want to add to the conversation. I think this is a lovely moment for the central office to admit that they made a bad decision. And we all do that. We do this with our students all the time, where we repair harm, we address the harm, we acknowledge the decision that was made and the feedback that we're getting, and then we work to repair the relationship. And I fear that if that repair doesn't happen, and we just move along without listening to all of the concerns of our community and teachers, then we are creating a lot of stress in the relationship between central office and teachers that is unnecessary. We want to collaborate with you. We want to work together to create a solution that works for everyone. But this entire process has not felt collaborative or respectful or kind. So I just humbly ask that you reflect and think about perhaps we can change this. We can change this for this year. We don't have to say, oh, maybe this spring. We could change it for the fall because you've gotten so much community feedback that this doesn't feel good for our community. So thank you so much for considering that and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Anya. Kelly, go ahead.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Sorry, that's a very 2022 thing to say. My name is Kelly Berry. I'm a parent of 2 children at Presumscott School, and I'm also a 4th grade teacher at Presumscott School. I had something planned, and now I'm sort of just feeling, I guess, more emotional than I originally thought. And part of that was, like others have said, receiving the email directed to me as a staff member and the email directed to me as a parent at 20 past 5. I think it sort of soured my feelings towards central office that I was already beginning to have. Just getting that information right before the school board meeting, I think I felt really manipulated. What I was really coming to say was I'm really echoing my lovely coworker Anya Rosenberg of just that I think from the start, this decision process felt, it all happened behind closed doors, and it just felt like a really inhumane way to make a decision. And something I value that we do at Presumpscot is everything is transparent. We're transparent with the students. Our principal is transparent with us about things that we have to do at our school. And I feel like the school board, not the school board, central office should honor us with that same transparency. I was also curious, and I know you can't respond, school board, but just how much of this you all know about, like if you knew that teachers and admin weren't being included. So if you didn't, you know now. But lastly, I will say, as someone who worked in Westbrook School for 13 years, where we had 20-minute conferences, they felt really transactional, really quick. I had to set timers. It felt awful. And I feel like at Presumpscot, it just feels like a humane way of interacting with families. Like when a family walks into your classroom, you need to have a couple minutes to say, like, how the hell are you? You know, like, how's the weather? How are you feeling about these crazy politics? Like, we're humans. We need to be able to, like, have that wiggle room to connect with families before we, dive in. And if you've never seen a student-led conference, well, you can't now, but I wish you could have seen them at Presumpscot, because they're beautiful. And parents would sit there like misty eyes watching their kids. I mean, that was one of the reasons that pulled me into wanting to teach in Portland. Because
30 seconds.
Sorry, Sarah. Yeah, just because of the humane approach. So I really feel like going back to 15 minutes will really feel like it's just a transactional thing that just has to get done. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Is there anyone else, either in the room or online? Nell, go ahead. It'll take just a second. There you go. Now we're ready. There you go.
Okay, great. Thank you. So there's been a lot of great feedback. There was even more great feedback shared at the feedback sessions last week, which I wish that most of you could have been present at. I think the overwhelming feeling that many of us have had is that there have been problems raised that we didn't know were problems, that are kind of school specific, that there may have been a school that had an extra day off for conferences, that there may have been a school that didn't have evening slots for conferences, that that we are worried about this lack of instructional time. Had teachers been involved in this decision, they could have suggested many great solutions to these problems, but we weren't given the chance. And I'm very sorry I didn't introduce myself, but I'm Nell Bridger, and I work at Presumpscot, and I have 2 kids at Presumpscot also. So that is just first and foremost part of why this process has felt so bad to so many of us, as many people have eloquently stated. Another thing that has been brought up a lot is the burden on the interpreters for the interpretive conferences. And again, a problem that we were not aware of, that I don't know if interpreters were, sought out to see their suggestions. We probably need more interpreters. I'm sure we do. By the way, interpretive conferences being shortened to 30 minutes is in no way equitable. We used to have 45. There is simply no way to do an interpretive conference. That means these families will also only get 15 minutes, even under the guise of getting more time. So those are some of my thoughts about, the problems with this process. Finally, I want to share some more, echo what my colleagues have said about the beauty and the joy of student-led conferences, the opportunity for community building, for resource assessing, not to mention the transportation barriers and so many other barriers that families face that we, that we all work around to get them here. I have heard it said that no one came to conferences. I'm hearing a lot of these anecdotes with no data that I can see to back them up, because our conferences were attended nearly 100% of the time. And if they couldn't, they were rescheduled. And we had many time slots. We had evenings, we had afternoons to accommodate families. So, and then, to put the individual onus on the building admins is not fair to say, okay, well, now you can do it your way. I mean, that's not fair. It's not equitable. Schools will get different opportunities based on what their admins are deciding. Students will get different opportunities. And
30 seconds.
Here. And last, I have heard there was a an issue with lack of data being shared, to which I would say that as a parent, I have never wanted to receive data at my parent-teacher conference. I would like to receive that in an email potentially, and that would be useful information, but that is not what I want to talk about at a parent-teacher conference when we have so much more to discuss about, you know, my students' growth as a learner and give them an opportunity to lead this work. That's all I have for now. Thank you for taking my comment.
Thank you, Nell. Is there anyone else on Zoom that would like to give public comment? GS, you're going to be up next.
Hello. Can you hear me, Sarah?
Yeah. Hey, is that Jeff?
This is Jeff Slack.
Okay.
Yeah, I couldn't get the GS off there. I spent a while trying to get that.
That's okay. Go
yeah,
ahead.
I can see you and Dr. Scallon. You can't see me, I don't think, but my name's Jeff Slack, and I'm a teacher at Portland High School, and I'm also a parent of a graduate and a student that was at Deering High School and is now in an out-of-district placement. And I guess what I wanted to say, listening to the teachers, specifically, it seems like the elementary school teachers really have strong feelings about the parent-teacher conference, which makes sense. That's where you connect with families, and so there's passion there, and it really is almost all of it there centered around what's going to be best for students. And I also, you know, tried to read quickly the message that we got at around 5:30 around some changes, or I don't know if there was actually changes, but it was a, you know, further explanation, and so I read it as fast as I could. But I guess what I'm thinking is there a way to postpone this from this year? I'm not saying past conferences didn't have problems and couldn't be improved, but it just feels like as a public school, and I know Dr. Scallon's trying to do things that are going to improve the experience for families, but yet I'm hearing all these things about that might not be improved and potentially worse. And so I just wonder if there's a way to pump the brakes or take some of the teacher input into account. And I don't know if it can be taken into account because of just the constraints. So it might need more time. But I just really trust my elementary school teacher colleagues and parents that are calling in. It seems like there's just more work to do to get it right. And I don't think there has to be winners and losers. It just can be, hey, what's going to be the best thing to move it forward? So that's really all I have to say. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Jeff. Anyone else? Yeah, Jeremy, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, thanks. Oh, and my apologies if I am a little distracted. I am grilling at the same time as I am speaking. So my name is Jeremy Lynch. I'm the school culture and climate coordinator over at Rowe Elementary School. Also have 2 children at Rowe Elementary as well. And I just wanted to first and foremost, thank everybody for your time and thoughtfulness thinking about this issue now. I will echo what I heard some other people say, is that one of the things to keep in mind in all of this is that we're all human beings and we all make mistakes and we all need to live in community together and work together and to try to figure out ways to do that. I feel like as a social worker by training, that one of the things that I've learned over time is that you do things with people and not to people. And I feel like, unfortunately, the way that this was rolled out is that many people on many different levels felt like this was something that was done to them. And that doesn't feel good. And working for Portland Public Schools, I have loved. This is my second year working in the district, and one of the things that I love about it is this emphasis on restorative practices. And one of the things that I work every day with my students on is to acknowledge the impact of our actions, regardless of the intent, and to be able to repair harm that is done. And so I feel like the way that this has been rolled out, unfortunately, has been a harm to our community and not a help to our community, despite the maybe very good intentions that it was supposed to help. And so I feel like one of the things that I would love to see is the district to live those values of the restorative practice, and and address what I call like the three-part apology. Right, the first is saying I'm sorry, acknowledging what actions caused the harm. The second, asking what can I do to make it better, and listening deeply to that, to see what we can actually do together to make things better. And then the third, to talk about what we can do differently in the future to prevent this from happening again. And that's all I wanted to say about that. And my burgers are done.
Thank you, Jeremy. Have a nice dinner.
Thank you.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to give comment? I see no more hands, and it doesn't seem like there's anybody. Oh, Zev, go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Hello, my name is Zev Bliss. I teach fourth grade at Reiki School. I live on Congress Street. I don't know what is going on with everybody giving their apartment numbers. I'm not going to do that. If you want to talk to me, you know where to find me. Hello, board members. Hello, student representatives in particular. Keep doing this. Your participation, your voices are important. Like everyone else who has spoken, I'm here to talk about conferences and about the process of decision-making in our district. I'm speaking up about this because I'm a teacher here and an alumni of Portland schools, and I was raised to advocate for a better world for myself and those around me. I also will say that I question speaking up tonight. I am, and I know others are speaking up in spite of worries about retaliation based on responses that we've had in the past after speaking up. I'm here and not somewhere else because I love this community. I love this school district. I love these students, my colleagues, and I don't want to go anywhere else. I'm here because I feel safe and supported. Let's make sure that that stays true and that we all remain here for one another. So you've heard a little bit about the listening sessions that we had last week. You've heard a little bit about the email that we got less than 2 hours ago. That email, let me back up. The listening session was to respond to a rumor that we heard that some kids would only get 15 minutes for their conferences, and that teachers would not have any more release time for those conferences. This was a decision made by a few district administrators with no input by students, teachers, parents, or building admins. Teachers, among others, including some fantastic interpreters, spoke up about this because we saw that it was bad for kids and families. We just got an update less than 2 hours ago about the issue. The update doesn't seem to be final. It says that one of the first models proposed was 15 minutes for some students. That is not the same as what was communicated to us last Thursday, which was that was the current plan, which would not be changing, at least for the fall. I'm very glad that the district has, it seems, gone back on that idea. That is not the same and should not be presented as in agreement with what we were told last week. It is okay to make a mistake and apologize for it, reverse a bad decision. I'm really glad to see that we are being listened to, even though we should have been part of the conversation from the beginning. Personally, I am alarmed because I still will not be able to fit my conferences in the allotted time, even including the additional 3.5 hours.
30 seconds.
Because I have 24 students. Personally, that is the largest way that I'm impacted. whatever the largest class size is, especially if that class is full of wonderful students who may be experiencing poverty, who may have IEPs, who may be English learners, who may like all of these are additional people at the conference. All of these are additional input that needs to happen at the conference. All of these are adding meaning and length. My last thing, because I know I'm about to run out of time, because I just mentioned those considerations for students, I do not want that to be taken in any way as me saying that I do not want to teach these students or care about them or love them. I am honored to have the opportunity to teach my students, which is why I want them to have conferences that are long enough for them to share what is meaningful for them about school, and in general for them to have the resources they need to succeed at school. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Zev. Is there anyone else? Okay, then I'm going to go ahead and close public comment. Thank you all for being here tonight. And I know Superintendent is going to talk a little bit more about conferences later tonight during his remarks. So I'm going to change gears to thank the PASS Culinary Program. They hosted us for a delicious dinner tonight, and it was really wonderful to share delicious food with folks in this room. And second, I just wanted to acknowledge that since our last meeting, which was on the first day of school, a lot has happened in the district that I want to highlight tonight. First, adult education had their first day of school. Myself and other board members were able to visit throughout the day and meet students and educators, as well as learn about the high demand for their classes that are offered there. And it is just so obvious how much both the students and educators there are serious about education, but also just as serious about building a strong community. And one of the things that is so cool to see there is how generational it is, that often a parent and then their older kids will come through, and or siblings, or it feels like a very strong community there. So I'm thankful for all the work that has happened there. Next, we also had 3 students named as semifinalists for the 2026 National Merit Scholarship Program. Deering High School seniors Ellis Retzer, Alma Wallace, and Ellis Wood. So congratulations to those students for being 3 out of the 58 students across Maine who were named for this award. In more troubling news, we've been interacting with the implementation of federal decisions that I believe counter the mission and values of this district. On September 11th at approximately 8 a.m., unidentified law enforcement agents in unmarked vehicles detained a parent after they dropped their child off for school on a school access road. We now know that these agents represented ICE. In response to this incident, we worked with city councilors on their own resolution, which condemns the recent tactics of ICE and directs the city's Health and Human Services and Public Safety Committee to work directly with us on further actions and support from the city. In addition to this chilling incident, as part of the ongoing civil lawsuit between the Federal Department of Justice and the Maine Department of Education around Title IX, the Department of Justice subpoenaed student athlete information from the Maine Principals Association. The Portland Public Schools has filed a motion within this case to quash this request because we are committed to keeping our students' information safe and refuse to let it be weaponized against them. The board and this district is going to continue to position itself to protect all of our students and their families. We will not adopt measures that undermine the rights of any of our students, even under external pressure. We also encourage all of you to be vigilant members of our community. Get familiar with the rights that you have and the rights of those around you. Both the ACLU of Maine and ILAP, the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project, someone should double check that acronym, but they're referred to as ILAP in the community, have excellent resources on these topics. And additionally, if you have the means to support organizations financially or with your time, as the demand on them continues to grow, please do. Consider supporting the Maine Immigrants' Right Coalition, also known as MERC, Portland Outright, Maine Transnet, Presente, or even our own Foundation for Portland Public Schools. I think tonight in the comments, we heard what a sense of community our district has and how much we believe in our kids and each other. And I think it is that drive and commitment to community that we have to continue to lean into as we navigate more and more of these issues. And so with that, I'm now going to turn it over to Mina, who Student Representative Fitzgerald, for her remarks about Portland High School.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Keep talking. We'll see if we can.
Mina, can you hold on 1 second?
Can you try tapping the mic? No.
Can you try the one next to you?
Try the next
Caroline's mic.
Yeah.
Perfect. Can you? All right.
The right volume.
Okay, so there have been a few changes to the school year. We went over one of them just now in all the public comment. But another one is the phone ban, which has been, I would say, somewhat boring, but smooth so far, which isn't bad. Some interesting statistics, though, are that the freshmen have been the best with their phone pouches, the seniors the second best, sophomores third, and juniors the least active with their yonder pouches, I guess you could say, which I think is just interesting. Lunch is probably the time the hallways are the most convoluted, but entering the building in the morning seems to be fine as people get there at different times from like 7:45 to 8:20, so that's fine, but lunch is still a little bit packed. Leaving the building is still a little bit packed at the end of the day, but it's only the first month. And I would say the biggest issue right now is that people, or one of them is that people aren't really, I'm not quite sure how many, but there's not really a surefire way to test if people are like using the pouches. First day of school, seniors are allowed to leave them in their car, so you just have to present like a pouch to the front of the school and they'll let you in, which I think is fine, but it just proves again, it's like the fact that you're being sent to the office if your phone is seen out that like changes things. Which again brings me to like my initial concerns in the beginning, which was the money being spent on this, which I know is pretty minuscule compared to the amount of money we have. But there are just some things that I feel if teachers or the school needs, they should be able to get very quickly, like calculators, textbooks, or books for like the English department, lesson notes or curriculum notes, without having to add any more to their plate, which I guess can also be seen through this conference change. Just I feel like teachers need to be taken, their feelings and I guess time should be taken into account just as much as the students is, because like, I don't know, time in the classroom doesn't necessarily mean time spent learning. So just adding like a sub in wouldn't necessarily have the same effect as a teacher who knows the students and the material. Another issue with the phone ban so far has been in AP Art, where students need to take progress pictures of their work for their portfolio, but I think this is being sorted out. These hiccups were explained to us, like Portland, Ms. Jepson, I, and a few other people during the summer where we had a meeting with Yonder, like the company, and they explained to us all like the different things we should expect within the first few months, and also like the different kinds of magnets that exist, which some of them are handheld, which is why I think getting AP Art students their phones during that class shouldn't be too much of an issue if it improves the instructional time. I feel like that should take precedence over not having a phone if that hinders the instructional time. So slightly shifting topics, we welcomed the freshmen about a week before school started with an open house where they got their computer, their Yonder pouch, and a t-shirt with their class graduation date. And they also got an orientation into what the next 4 years are going to be for them. And about a week into school, we hosted a club fair for all grades, but specifically for ninth graders, where they got to see all the different activities we have at PHS, like Women's Rights, Outing Club, stock market club, Model UN, math team, and a lot more. Seniors have been attending senior planning, which is where you prepare for college, so it's pretty fun. And then 8th graders are getting a really early introduction to high school. The first informational session about high schools happened last night online, and our 8th grade open house is happening in early October in comparison to last year, where it happened in December. This open house will also have a club fair as well as tours around the school and a few student speakers, which I believe it's a bit early to have this kind of event, but I like that students are leading it like we did last year, because I think students are the best at getting others motivated for participating in and caring about school. Student Council has also been very proactive this year. They made a mission statement over the summer where they're hoping to make students feel like school is a place where they can grow both academically and as a person, and also have their voice more heard. I think the situation with like the phones made people realize that like it's nice to know that you can come to board meetings and you can give your input and be listened to. NHS is also going to be continuing an initiative that they started last year, which is hosting English learning conversations where students who are not yet proficient in English can engage in conversations with English speakers to better their English. We hope to extend this so that way people who speak English only can participate in French, Spanish, Portuguese, and Angolan conversations to learn those languages as well. So yeah, we're very early in the school year, so that presentation was very short, but thank you for listening. And are there any questions?
Thank you, Student Representative Fitzgerald. Are there any questions from the board? I'm curious, what qualifications did you use to rank the classes for their cell phone bestness?
I got that from the like central off or like the main office at Portland. Oh, okay, sorry, but we do keep track of like whose phone is like turned into like the office and whatnot, and like whose parents get called in, and freshmen have been really good about it, and I think it makes a lot of sense because freshmen, it's like part of high school, and then juniors, they were probably like expecting like freedom sooner as they ranked as they got up, and they didn't get that. But yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for that clarity. Anybody else? Board Member Opperman, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to say kudos to NHS. I think that back and forth of language learning is really important and one of the hallmarks of Portland High, really.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for that report. And now we're going to move to the superintendent remarks.
Thank you, Chair. Good evening, everybody. It's hard to believe that we're already at the end of the first month of school. Chair Lentz and I coordinated on our statements tonight as there's a lot to share and provide updates on. And so first, I just want to share that I echo Chair Lentz's congratulations to our National Merit semifinalists. I also share her concern for the negative impact that actions outside of our control having on our community.
Your mic just went up.
It's on again.
Share her concern for the negative impact that actions outside of our control are having on our community as a whole and targeted communities specifically. Tonight, I also want to share 5 updates. First, Hannaford and the Locker Project partnered to expand the food pantry at Portland High School. This was Hannaford's 200th food pantry, and we're really excited that we had the opportunity to have that at Portland High School. The food pantry provides students with fresh food and pantry items. Students are able to access this throughout the day with supportive staff, and it helps ensure that our students come to school ready to learn and not hungry. The grand opening was September 16th, and one of the things that Principal Jepson shared with me that she was most excited about was that the pantry now has fridge and freezer capacity, which allows for significant expansion of food options for our students and families. Another piece of exciting news, the main chapter of the National Social Workers announced that Portland Public Schools would be recognized as their Agency of the Year in 2025. This is a big recognition for a team in PPS that goes above and beyond for our students and families. This team wears a large number of hats, including mental health, responding to crises, family support, homelessness prevention, among many other things. The real truth is that our mental health professionals supplement the city and state DHHS agencies And the city and state often looked for our team to take on burdens that probably should not sit with a district, but this team takes it on because it is the right thing for our families. This award is one recognition of that work. The third update is around our attendance and enrollment boundaries for our elementary and middle schools. A community group of stakeholders has been working on proposed changes to the elementary and middle school boundaries for approximately the last year. This group has engaged deeply in questions around school utilization, socioeconomic factors, transportation, neighborhoods, walking paths, etc. They have identified that making significant changes in school enrollments also requires changes to our policies and budget. That said, they have prepared adjusted maps for both elementary and middle schools, and we will host a second round of community engagement on these proposed changes. After that engagement, the committee will vote whether to move the maps forward to the board for consideration. This board would then have the opportunity to discuss, approve, or decide not to adjust or request modifications to those proposals. The community engagement sessions are October 9th at 10 a.m. at the Woodfords Club, where interpretation services will be provided, October 15th at 6 p.m. at Rowe Elementary School, October 16th at 6 p.m. at Lincoln, October 29th at 6 p.m. at the United Way of Greater Portland, and October 30th at 6 p.m. virtually. We're in the final stages of making adjustments to the maps that the committee discussed last Thursday, and they will be posted on our website by the end of this week in preparation for those community engagement sessions. Speaking of community engagement, we did not have an opportunity to discuss this at the Public and Legislative Affairs Committee yesterday, but just a reminder to members of this board that there will be opportunities that you will see on the calendar for both student and staff engagement. Student engagement this fall will be focused on high schools, and in the spring, listening sessions at all of our high schools and middle schools. Staff engagement, there are 2 dates that are held for district-wide staff engagement, and then we are also targeting to do individual ones at each of the schools in both the fall and the spring. And so you will see those show up on the board calendar as possible engagements. As you've heard tonight from public comment, there are changes that are being made to parent-teacher conferences. These changes and the process was not perfect, and I will own that, and I take responsibility for that. Oftentimes there's a discussion about whose decision it was and what the engagement was, and if there are errors in the process, folks can come to me and put that on me. The reason for the changes were multifold. The first is to address feedback from parents about receiving information too late in some situations. In past years, recently, conferences have run from September through December. One of the things that was identified is that sometimes conferences are that time where families may indicate that they need additional social work support or that they're experiencing housing instability. And waiting until December, we felt is too late. And so wanted to shrink that window. The second is that in some schools, students were losing up to 3 half-days of instruction each semester. And we know that a half-day isn't really the same as what can be accomplished in a full day. And so this meant that kids were losing up to 3% of regular instruction time in school. The third is that conferences really stretched the capacity of our multilingual team. They were not able to support schools at the level that both they want and our families want because they were often spending all of those months in September through December really being responsive around conferences. And then the fourth reason is around transportation. And transportation could not support or maintain the varied dismissal times and the number of additional half-days for conferences. So those are the 4 main issues. Recognizing this, we identified that there were 3 things that we wanted to sort of put bounds on this year. One was to avoid half-days of instruction. This was to make sure that we didn't have students losing valuable instructional time. The second is to make sure that we weren't using more than 7.5 hours of after-school time for conferences. This is really to keep in alignment with the teacher contract. And the third was to have the conferences occur within that window of time so that it wasn't stretching to be too long in the year or our multilingual team being too stretched. We know there are trade-offs and that each of these comes with other trade-offs as well. We also know that what this looks like for each school varies, and varies because of the number of kids in a classroom, to the number of teachers, to the number of release staff that can provide support. And so as part of that work, there was a sample conference piece. And I think we overstressed the fact that conferences could happen in 15-minute or 30-minute increments. Part of that was because we put together a mock schedule of what this could look like. Part of this was also because of technical sort of binds within using Reach My Teach to schedule. But we certainly were too rigid in the front end around the 15 versus the 30 in our messaging. We heard feedback from staff that this felt like they weren't heard and they weren't engaged enough. And that's fair criticism, and I fully agree with that criticism. Recognizing that and in appreciation for our partners at the PEA, worked with their president, Carrie Dowdy, to schedule 2 engagement sessions with staff. Those engagement sessions happened last Monday and last Wednesday to get feedback. Part of this was around making sure that we could accomplish everything that folks were identifying, or as much as possible, and to see where we could free up flexibility at the school level, recognizing, again, the variability within class size, of resources at the school level. So there were some things that came out of that feedback that were adjustments being responsive to feedback we heard. And we couldn't go back in time to have done this conversation earlier, right? That was one thing we couldn't change because of here we are. But we did try to take the feedback and be responsive to it. And so examples of that are that we expanded conferences to include a Wednesday early dismissal, and in addition included another Wednesday for planning time for conferences and getting prepared for it. And so total, that sort of window of time that's available became 11.5 hours. Really kind of 9.5, or right a little bit less than that if you don't count the planning. And conversations occurred with principals about freeing up capacity where needed and where families need conferences earlier in the day to be responsive to that. And so the idea around potentially having a release staff member, like an instructional coach or an AP, fill in for a couple hours was actually feedback that we heard from teachers as one idea, and we heard from actually some board members as one idea as a way to provide flexibility, and actually a structure that was used in the past. And so it's not thinking that that time is the exact same as what it would be with their core classroom teacher, but that for a teacher who had a particularly large class, that would give additional flexibility. Or if a family or a group of families needed to do earlier conferences, it would provide that flexibility. And so the intention of sending out the update was not about putting it right in front of the board meeting, even though it appears as such. It was really about what's the time it took us to figure out what was possible with Reach My Teach, to give our assistant soups time to engage with principals around what's needed in their individual school, and to try to be responsive to what we heard in those listening sessions. And so just want to acknowledge that if we could go back in time, certainly would do this process with more engagement earlier. In fact, I was talking to a teacher on my way here today, and her feedback was, if you could have just had that conversation in May instead of September, it would have felt different. And so feedback's heard, and we will continue to engage and learn from the process and work to be better on that. The last piece is just a recognition and a celebration for our families that celebrated Rosh Hashanah recently. A reminder that Yom Kippur is a holiday for the district, and on Thursday, some families in our community will be celebrating that. And then Indigenous Peoples Day is on Monday, October 13th, which again is a day that many in our community celebrate and will be a day off. Happy to take questions from the board, from our student reps.
Any questions for Superintendent? Board Member Ali Ali, go ahead.
Hello, thank you, Superintendent. Yeah, so I think I needed like a little bit of more clarification because the email that I'm reading on all the emails are stating that the parent-teacher conferences are from 30 minutes to 15 minutes, and I think that's a major issue that kept coming up. Public. So if you could just.
Yeah, so the original schedule that we came up with as sort of an example of what it would look like, and that again, our messaging sort of made it feel more rigid, had 15 and 30 minutes. Using Reach My Teach is the software that we've recently turned to using for conferences, also needs set times. And the reality is that when we engage at an individual level and with an individual class and with an individual family, the length of time that's needed may vary, right? That for one student, a conference of 30 minutes may be right, and for another, it may need to be 20 or 40. And so our Reach My Teach software doesn't allow that level of flexibility, and so it would put it on the school to schedule. That said, I think the most recent update said, like, we hear the feedback on the 15 minutes, excuse me, and there's flexibility on that. And it's really flexibility at the local level. Our classes range from 13 students to 25. On the 13 end, right? And you heard this in some of the comments. In the 13, you can run 30-minute conferences and be pretty good and have plenty of time. And 25 is hard. And when we look back at how much time was set aside for conferences, similar to this, outside of instructional time, it ranged from 6 hours to 11 hours, with most of the schools setting aside somewhere around 9 to 10 hours of time for conferences when you factor in both early dismissal and after school. And so it's within that same time frame that it is now based on the feedback we got.
Okay, thank you for that. There's a quick follow-up is, I mean, I understand the timing on the system, Reach My Teach, but I think like preferably, I would rather have a little bit more time when doing my meetings, for example, right? If I'm having a meeting, and then if it cuts early, it cuts early. But I do see the point about 15 minutes not being enough to kind of discuss situations, especially with your student and academics and behavior and whatnot. So yeah, just wanted to put a light on that.
Thank you. Board Member Yusra Ali.
I just wanted, yeah, there you go. Who's taking on the capacity of scheduling these different times that should be scheduled for the?
Well, that's the hard part, right? Is that if we're going to use technology to do the scheduling, it gets sort of restricted in terms of what level of flexibility you have. And that's one of the challenges. Reach My Teach allows like really easy scheduling, but it doesn't have the flexibility because you can't offer up a parent any range of time to choose. And so you end up with windows and slots. And so that's how they got it, is a 30-minute slot or a 15-minute slot, because then you could schedule it through Reach My Teach pretty easily. And so some schools, what they have done is they've turned to individually scheduling in partnership with Multilingual and reaching out to families to do that.
Vice Chair Bando, go ahead.
Thank you, Superintendent. I just need a clarification on the length, because when I heard, if I were well, is that before it used to be from September to December when we have also the multilingual family combining. So now we've done those kind of flexibility change to 15 minutes. So what did we decrease on the time frame with the multilingual combining? So that means it's going to be like a 1 month, it's going to be 2 months. So what's the period then we're going to have those conferences with this kind of changes?
Yeah, I think it shrinks to 6 weeks. Okay. I'm just looking, I think it's about 6 weeks, the window that it goes to. The general guidance that it started with, and again, like It's gotten more flexible based on feedback along the way, was 30 minutes for multilingual families and 15 for non-multilingual. And now there's some additional flexibility on that.
Okay, right. Thank you.
Board Member Ali, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's 30 minutes for multilingual families and then
Again, there's not a hard and fast, and we have to schedule across 18 facilities or 17, and we got to schedule with a limited team. And so we have to coordinate that resource. And so the starting guidance is around 30 minutes. If somebody said, look, Ryan's conference really needs to be 45, nobody's saying, no, you can't do that.
Okay.
But our software for scheduling wouldn't allow a family to just have that one-off request. That software doesn't exist for purposes of scheduling a conference. Even if you use like a Google Calendar, right? You're giving windows of time that define what the window is. And so it's pretty standard. And so this is where and this has always happened in our schools. The reality is our teachers do conferences all the time and engage with families. And we're fortunate to have really committed educators. You heard them tonight around this. And so there are times where they may say, look, parent-teacher conferences are starting in a month, but I need to meet with Ryan's family to engage earlier. And so there's flexibility on that.
So what was changed in general? Like I haven't really seen the change of the policy and whatnot, but I would like to dig into that because I want to understand like I get if it's a system, then it's a system, but I do hear the teachers really asking, hey, like we need this time, and I really do think it's very, very important. So if there's any possible way we can bring it up another school board meeting or have a discussion with it outside of here, I think I appreciate that.
Any other questions for Superintendent? Yeah, go ahead, Student Representative O'Brien.
Okay. I'm not familiar with the software, but I was thinking like, is there a way that you could make like the scheduling time like 15 minutes and then a family could select more than one 15-minute slot consecutively and then rather than I know you wouldn't be able to have like varied time.
So I don't know on the specific technical. I do know that when they changed the default today in response to feedback, they changed it from 15 to 30 or in the process of doing that. Again, in response to this desire around additional time, it may require, in some cases, more flexibility on the school end around how they do that. And so the way that sort of our assistant superintendent of elementary schools described it is when we get to looking at how families are requesting the time is being responsive then to where their specific need. It's one of those things that if you thought about it as trying to put in place a common system for 800 staff, right? It varies. And so we want to be responsive to what's needed based on their class size, their schedule, their individual students.
Okay. I'm going to move us to the next section.
Before you move,
Yeah.
just want to have the board recognize or see, there's no action needed, but as consistent with last meeting, we now post under the superintendent the individuals who have exited the system as well as hires that sit outside of licensed staff. And so you will see that there.
And just as a reminder, the board does not vote on those categories of employees. So that's why they're in this section of the board meeting. Thank you for reminding us of that. And so up next, we have committee reports. And we're going to start with our Finance, Personnel, and Operations Committee. No, we'll get you one that works. Yeah, you're good.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Super. Okay. Thank you, Chair. So yes, happy to report out on the activities of the Finance, Personnel and Operations Committee for the month of September. We had a presentation from the transportation team to let us know about work that they have begun and will continue to do around putting together an operational plan to improve services and make transportation more effective for our district. That is going to it's going to incorporate work that's been ongoing. There's going to be a parent survey, stakeholder input, and then the full board will be getting a first read and a second read on the plan itself in the month of January. So that's exciting. Looking forward to that. We also had a very extensive, thorough, took up a lot of the meeting. It was great though. Update from the HR team on the work that is in process right now and ongoing. In terms of strategic plan, it hit 4.1, 4.2, 4.3, and 4.4. It was just a lot of content. It was great. Really good, exciting work. And then also strategic plan item 1.1 was included in that presentation as well. A lot of really good progress. We continue to receive financial updates each month. And it's just really great to see revenue expenditures tracking to month by month and being able to see how that's going. In terms of what we will be seeing as a full board soon, the concept of moving more than $50,000 of funds from one state category to another, the committee voted to move that forward to the full board because that has happened. And then as a preview for October, we will only be meeting one time in October because of Indigenous Peoples Day. But at the end of the month, we will be talking about technology, main PERS update, and talking about the way we work with the city. So it'll be a good conversation.
Any questions for Board Member Bryden around finance or operations or personnel? I'm really excited to watch the video. I haven't yet, but now after all this giggling, I can't wait. Any other questions? Okay, I see none. So let's move on to policy. Board Member Lena, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. The policy committee has been very busy. We approved some minor wording changes in two policies that we are, as a board, are going to look at tonight. IJNDB, the student use of school-issued computers, devices, and the internet, and also JICIA, which is about weapons, violence, and school safety. So those, again, were minor changes that had some wording that needed to be updated. We have had two readings of proposed changes to policies ACAA and ACAB, which are about harassment and sexual harassment of students and employees, respectively. We have had discussions on these, but have decided to postpone the vote until the next meeting, as we're looking for more data around the practice of anonymous reporting. There is a clause in there that we were looking at potentially removing or rewording, and so we asked for more data from staff before deciding on that. We have read over the proposed policy GBEB, staff conduct with students. This is a new policy for Portland Public Schools that does not currently exist. So we are drafting that policy and reviewing the draft. We have offered some feedback and edits to staff, and we will be looking at those changes at our next meeting. And we are asking the board to please, if you have time, watch the most recent committee meeting recordings. That way you can get an update on what work we've done. And then what we're going to do tonight, which is review and vote on IJNDB and JICIA. At our next meeting, which is the same night as Board Member Bryden mentioned, we will be discussing and voting on ACAA and ACAB. We'll be having another discussion of GBEB, and we will start our first discussion on another new policy we're looking at potentially creating, IIB, which is class sizes. And we also need to adjust our proposed calendar to accommodate additional policies that will need review. And so we will be doing that in the meantime.
Thank you, Board Member Alina. Also, great job remembering all of those letters. Well done. I know, but it's still hard. Any questions for the policy committee? All right, then let's go ahead and move on to curriculum and student success. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. It's hard to summarize briefly 3 hours of intense information from the academic team. It was very meaty and very appreciated, but I'll try. We had 2 very full meetings. The first one largely on high school work, high school understanding what a portrait of a graduate was, and talking about high quality instructional materials in the math curriculum and how that's upcoming, what the new advisory is, how 9th graders have opportunities and that will be even more developed to have greater success throughout their 4 years in high school. A fair amount of data, just 1 year of data, because of the changes at the state level in testing, but we had varying results in reading and math. 50% of our students, though, are not reaching state expectations and both. And our chronic absenteeism ranges among schools from 31% to 46%. Suspension levels were interesting in that they ranged from school to school from 13, 30, or 150 combined amounts. And our average 4-year graduation rate was 77%, 85% if the student continued a year or two, which happens frequently as kind of a prep school situation. The graduation gap, however, was 20% at 4 years, but down to 10% in 5 or 6 years. So spending extra time in high school can improve the potential for their graduating with better situation. The second meeting of the month was focused again on curricula in English, language arts, and math. A very nice description of exactly what is the science of reading and problem solving maths that are in K through 8 programs. Discussion of the ongoing curriculum review. Then a fair amount of time was spent on historic middle school data. Test results were great, not great. It was very improved. I found that felt very positive about what was happening at the middle schools in the last couple of years. So comparing 2 years of data, the test results increased proficiency in math by 6.5%, increased proficiency at 4.5%. We've have 35% who are still below state expectations in reading. Math is a problem at 60% in below expectations. Suspension rates decreased by 20%, which is a wonderful thing to know. We often think of middle schools being a tough place, but apparently not. So that's one good piece to know. And the survey with students said that they feel over the couple of years improved attitude and feeling about behavior, safety, and the staff support of them and their academic achievements. So that's a student viewpoint. Parents had a very positive, I think, overall, of 7.5 out of 10 saying that they would recommend their student to attend the middle school that they were at. And then what we started a discussion and on transitions between preschool and kindergarten and 5th grade into 6th grade and 8th grade to 9th grade. Interesting programming done. We will continue that discussion because we hadn't time, but because next month, in the end of the last meeting in October, we will be talking particularly about special education and multilingual, which is a great, in those two important areas in transitions. That's it.
Thank you, Board Member Aberman. Any questions for the curriculum and student success? Yeah, go ahead, Board Member Sawtelle.
Yeah. Hi, thanks, Julian. Member Opperman.
It's okay.
I just wanted to clarify from my own brain, the suspension numbers were 13, 30, and 150 across the district. So that's like one school had 13, another school had 30, one has 150. Is it possible that it was not 150 students, but like 25 students being suspended 6 times? Do we know? You know what I mean?
I'm looking at Data Guru in the corner, and those are individuals. A count of suspensions is not
so
the
not individual.
could be repeated. Yeah, it could be repeated.
Okay. I'd be interested in that data if I could get that at some point.
Well, the breakdown.
Yeah, I'm
of-
just
of-
curious.
Okay. Well,
Thanks.
next meeting.
And
Isn't it in Village and Community? Wouldn't that be in the presentation that's in?
The presentation shows that sum total, it says how many are in-house, how many are out-of-house suspensions. It does not say if they're repeated individuals. So it's not a breakdown of it's incidents as opposed to individuals, I guess would be the way of looking at it.
And you're looking for, Board Member Sawtelle, the individuals.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
Yeah, we can get that.
yeah, Haley can provide that.
She will.
Superintendent, was
She's
there
been
something else
amazing.
you wanted to say?
I was just going to say that at the school that had the high number of suspensions, it was not 150 distinct students.
No.
Any other questions for that committee? Awesome. And I, again, just would encourage board members to at least look through the PowerPoints and attachments for all of the committee meetings so that you can get into details, because those things that are being presented at the committee level will come up later at the full board. So it's great to have that context. And then I'm happy to give an update on the Public and Legislative Affairs Committee. So we have solidified our community engagement calendar for the fall and for the spring. So just asking folks to keep an eye on that on your calendar. You're welcome to join any of those. And then we have been digging into the legislative side of this committee in the last 2 meetings. We have developed a bill tracker, which we will be tracking bills throughout this session, which is starting as we speak, and we'll be also defining what our legislative priorities are in the next meeting in October. And then we had Robbie Feinberg from MSMA come to our meeting last night to really do a primer on how legislation works in Maine. I found it incredibly interesting. Students, I don't know if you're interested in policy at all, you could watch it on two-speed, and I just found it really helpful to understand how a bill becomes a law in Maine, and to just understand what resources are available online and what are the points in the process where it's most impactful to be involved and how we can do that. I think one of the big things coming out of that meeting is just figuring out ways to be regularly engaging with our state legislators, and I think our federal legislators. So the committee will be working on that as well. Any questions around? Yes, Maya, Lena.
Thank you. With the signing up for community engagement, can you talk a little bit more about what that process will be for board members?
That is a great question. I don't know the process yet. Superintendent Scowen, do you know the process?
So I think there's 2 different things to think about. For community engagement, where it's the sessions at 6 p.m., there is a form that will go out in the board update this week where you can sign up and indicate. Those are really board engagement sessions, and so we want to make sure that the board has a healthy representation at those. The sessions that are the Wednesday after school or like during that Wednesday PD time for staff, and then the student ones we recognize are more challenging. And so we'll follow up individually. We'll share the dates. If you can join, great. Otherwise, I will take the feedback and share it back out with the board so that you have the themes.
Thank you. Great question. Any other questions? Yeah, Board Member Opperman.
Are we participating in the city? The city has regional district meetings, and we've sometimes participated in those, and sometimes we've had our own. I didn't know what we were doing on that.
Yeah, so we have the dates from the city. We just got them in the last couple of weeks. So those will be on the calendar. Folks can join them. Can we put that in the update this week as well? Superintendent, just the dates of those?
Yeah, those were previously shared, but we'll confirm with the city that they're finalized and put them out in the update.
Perfect. And we aren't going to do our own district meetings, though we're going to have this community engagement sessions where we cover things, but we're not going to call them district meetings. They're just community engagement sessions.
I think we're now getting PTO meetings scheduled. Are they being scheduled on the calendar? And that I think is the equivalent of doing a district meeting.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I think we have moved away in the last year or so from doing each district and having a meeting in each district to just having multiple community members so people can come to the meeting that makes the most sense for them. So that will continue. But yes, the PTO meetings are also now being added as we know them, and folks are more than welcome to attend those. Board Member Lena? Yeah.
I think this is what you were talking about, but there's a very cool new Google Calendar that was shared with us that's called District Events for Board, and there a bunch of PTO meetings are listed on there and school open houses, and I really appreciate it. So thank you to whoever.
To Kate Phoenix.
Thank you to Kate.
Yes, thank you, Kate Phoenix. Okay, any other questions? No? Okay, beautiful. Then we're going to go ahead and move on to the report of the secretary. We have two different sets of notes or minutes, so we're going to separate them into two actions here. So up first, we have the consideration action to approve the meeting minutes of September 9th, 2025. Are there any corrections to those meeting minutes? Okay, I see no corrections, so the meeting minutes are approved as distributed. And then we have the consideration action to approve the meeting minutes of September 15th, 2025. Are there any corrections to those meeting notes? I would like to make a correction. Board Member Bryden and Board Member Noor were in attendance, but they were not there at the roll call, but they were in attendance for that special meeting. So I would just like to update the minutes for that. Any other corrections? All right, then the minutes are, let me just double check we still have quorum. Okay. Then the minutes are approved with those amendments. And now we're going to move on to our focus on education. So Superintendent, I will pass it back to you.
Yes, good evening. I am happy to welcome up Doctors Proctor, Abdullahi, and Atkinson Duina, who are going to share an update on the work of our academic teams, with a particular focus around how we're trying to help schools leverage school improvement plans as required by the state in alignment with the strategic plan. And so I think Dr. Proctor is going to start us, and then Dr. Atkinson Duina and Dr. Ahmed will be joining. As a logistical piece, do you want me to share the slides on the screen for you? Okay, just give me 1 second.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us an opportunity to speak to you about some of our efforts that we are taking this year. We're going to focus, as Dr. Scallon said, on our school status for improvement and development. And so as I go to the next slide, looking at the agenda, it really is very simple. I'm gonna share some information about the state accountability, identification, school improvement planning, and some intro to our leadership development. And then at the elementary, we'll hear about the elementary efforts in school improvement planning and leadership development respectively, and likewise how that is playing out specifically in secondary, and then we'll open it up for questions. So with the school improvement plan and leadership development, we're just going to jump in and say, we cannot achieve any of our strategic initiatives or outcomes without supporting our leaders in the change process. So we have a really strong strategic plan, and our strategic plan is really bucketed in 5 key areas. Of course, equity, achievement, whole student, connected community, people, and systems. And so with that, as we move into the next slide, we had to take into consideration the notion that quality schools and effective leadership are really key to high outcomes and lasting change. And so the DOE, as many states across the country, have accountability measures. And so the state has selected 5 measures of accountability, and those indicators are focused on chronic absenteeism, progress in English proficiency, academic progress or growth, academic achievement, and the graduation rate. And what you'll hear in this presentation is how, through our strategic plan, through some of the focal areas that the state is looking at, we are working very closely with our schools so that they can experience a measure of success and in improving our student outcomes. And so schools received an accountability rating, and the categories for schools really vary, and we have multiple identifications. They are from the state level. They are what is called comprehensive support and improvement schools, which is the more severe of the identifications that would come down. We have an additional targeted support and improvement schools, and we also have targeted support and improvement schools. And this past year, looking at the data, looking at the measures that were shared on a previous slide that the state looks at, all PPS schools, with the exception of one, were identified as ATSI or TSI. And on the slide, you'll see that that additional targeted support and improvement identification means that schools with at least one student population experiencing challenges were identified. So it could be, for example, the economically disadvantaged population of students. It could be, a Hispanic population. But if there's one population that is experiencing a challenge and not meeting criteria by the state, the school would be identified as ATSI. And then for TSI, which is again targeted support and improvement, these are the schools that have one or more student populations not meeting their targets for the given indicator for 3 consecutive years. ATSI is an annual measure. TSI is reviewed by the state every 3 years. And so you'll see the breakdown across the state for how schools have been identified. Again, the bulk of them falling at ATSI with over 60%, a little over 12% is TSI. Our CSI schools are at about 0.6%, and the other schools across the state are not identified. But in PPS, if we click one more time, you'll see that in PPS, 0% of our schools were identified as CSI, 25% were TSI, and 69% are ATSI. So moving forward, the school improvement plan serves as a guide, and it's guided by the strategic plan and can support our leaders in driving, for better outcomes for kids. And that's what the work that we do each and every day is really about. And so the schools implement an improvement plan or a SIP to create the structured approaches, practices for improving their practice, right? So improving, the outcomes overall by identifying needs, enhancing teaching practices, improving student achievement, and creating a unified, purposeful vision for the school community by setting achievable goals, monitoring implementation, and measuring progress towards obtaining those great outcomes that we desire. And so we support leaders to be change agents, right? To lead change using these components. And so progress monitoring, the process of progress monitoring for the school improvement plan includes regular database check-ins and tracking progress towards goals and making achievement. And this really occurs in terms of an ILT, which many schools have what is called an instructional leadership team. Those are members that include the leader, the principal, the assistant principal, our instructional coaches, some of our teaching staff, where they come together and they're looking at examining for their school community how instruction is going. And so that's just one example. Performance management and continued improvements are keys and key components for leading change. And so we are doing things to kind of help in this process. And you'll hear a little bit more about it through the work of our network teams. They're doing district walkthroughs. They're hosting and leading around instructional leadership teams, observing and having data conversations. Their quarterly step back meetings with schools so that we could listen to how their progress is going, listen for ways that we as can insert supports to schools that may be struggling in a particular area, and so that they could kind of stay on track with how it is that they are implementing for the outcomes that they desire. And the district strategic plan, as stated before, we are having step back meetings on the strategic plan side so that we can ensure that we are looking continuously and monitoring how well we're doing in moving the strategic initiatives. So the strategic plan, elements of the strategic plan are absolutely represented in each school's school improvement plan. So for example, they have a focus around ELA instruction and the implementation of the new curriculum. They have a focus on looking at student outcomes and ensuring that we're working closely with our multilingual learners. So you'll see elements of that strategic plan represented in each of the school improvement plans. And so we're looking at 4 focus areas in order to ensure that we're working and orchestrating. We're really spending a lot of time in the development of our leaders. And so that is looking at focusing on 4 areas to develop principals as great instructional leaders and change agents. And that includes coaching and feedback, instructional leadership, data and continuous improvement, and leading instructional teams. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over, and what you'll hear is more specifically about what it looks like at the elementary level, and then what those efforts are looking like at the secondary level.
Good evening, board members. Before I go into our topic on school improvement, planning and leadership, I'd just like to take a moment to thank our school leaders, principals, and assistant principals. Tomorrow is the start of October and National Principals Month. And so I know Dr. Ahmed and Dr. Proctor and I are all really thankful for the school leaders and principals and assistant principals that we have in our district. It would be impossible, not just difficult, to do this work without them. So I'm going to go ahead and I just am presenting. This is where all our elementary schools are in terms of the state's accountability program, the way that they mark this. I did just want to, like, going through the data, call out for you that the subgroup performance that has been flagged. Here are the subgroups that were flagged as part of this process if you dig deeper into the data. So our students with disabilities, they were flagged at 7 of our schools. The economically disadvantaged student group was flagged at 5 of our schools. And then the white group was flagged at 5 of our schools. The Hispanic and Latino group was flagged at 3 of our schools. And then the 2 or more races were flagged at 2 of our schools. And then the multilingual student group was flagged at 1 of our schools. So if you're like wondering, like, what is it that gets us onto this list, that just gives you a little bit of some insight into what groups we might need to focus on. So, and you can see we have 3 elementary schools that are in TSI status, which, as Dr. Proctor called out, was having 1 or more student populations experiencing challenges on the same indicator for 3 or more years in a row. And I hope you don't mind if I repeat that, because I keep having to tell myself like what this means. And then the ATSI status, which schools get identified every year, it's where 1 or more populations are experiencing challenges in all indicators. We can keep going. So, you heard that news. We're kind of being held on the accountability list, but I just want to just say that I think we can all feel really good about the strategic plan that we have in place, that plan does address many of those things that are addressed at the state level as well. And so if we align our school plans to that strategic plan, we should be able to address some of those issues that accountability system points out. So our state indicators, chronic absenteeism, achievement in reading and math, progress in reading and math, and English language development are aligned to our focus areas. Those are things that we've been paying attention to even before we were on this list. Also, just calling out our whole student focus area on our strategic plan, and our work at the elementary level is to continue to build strong attendance and engagement. We have the project to implement a new SEL curriculum this year, so that's a slight adjustment of that's new this year. Also, our focus on achievement is, we're continuing to focus on high quality curriculum implementation, instruction in reading and math. I feel like we just came out of some walkthroughs today, and what's exciting to see is that our focus is changing from just are you doing the curriculum to how well are we doing it? And so that's a kind of nice shift that we've seen over time. Also on achievement this year, that we're having a little bit more of a focus on our practices using assessment data to differentiate instruction for students and to provide additional support where needed. So this is our 2nd year using the M-Class assessment tool. So it's nice to have a 2nd year so that everybody's more familiar with the data and can utilize it better to respond to student needs. Also, just a reminder of our whole student and connected community goal, where we are building partnerships with families and community groups that align with our goals. And then Thank you. So for our leaders, Dr. Proctor mentioned how we do need strong leaders that are trained in a change management process to help with this work. We have moved to a new strategic plan. They also, at the end of June, received this kind of new body of work from the state around work that they needed to do. And so all of that does require some change and adaptation into our work. So we are focusing this year at the elementary level on results-based leadership training that focuses on growing shared accountability for student outcomes. And when I say shared accountability, I mean from the district to the school leaders to our teachers, that we all are aligned on those outcomes that we are aiming for. So we have a grant actually that supports results-based facilitators who have led the Gorman Foundation Results Fellowship for the last 10 years. That's a kind of local results-based leadership group. And we are building shared accountability for supporting all elementary students to be prepared and empowered for middle school. And one of our key indicators this year focuses on third grade reading achievement. So we are focused specifically on that because we believe that reading and literacy at the elementary school, that there's no more stronger way to empower students for learning in their future. I just want to call out, some of the activities that we're working around as far as engaging school communities in the work, sharing responsibility and accountability, setting meaningful goals and targets, identifying key strategies, and tracking our progress. Those are not new activities. Those are ones that we've done before, but we are working on elevating our practices for school improvement so that we can get better at getting better. So.
Good evening. My name is Abdullahi Ahmed, and I'm the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Schools. And I will start that I second appreciation and gratefulness to our principals and our assistant principals for the good work that they do every day. And with that, I will start about the at the secondary level. And next slide. At the secondary level, all the three middle schools and 2 high schools are classified as additional targeted support and improvement category, while 1 high school is in the targeted support and improvement category. So as we implement and all over the summer, actually, our leaders and district staff, we were working on devising and working our improvement plans. So as we implemented the school improvement plans, the leaders need the skills and the support to drive meaningful school improvement plans for better student outcomes. To do so, we are partnering with Attuned organization to support us to focus on areas for leadership learning. So our leaders are getting support from our partner Attuned, and in areas that include student outcomes, classroom practices, and effective leadership. Under the student outcomes, the goal is to have 100% of our schools to meet or exceed the goals that we put in the improvement plan. Under the classroom practices, we want to increase the grade level rigor and effective use of adapted curriculum. And under the leadership effectiveness, one of the goals is to strengthen instructional leadership, as well as to engage in continuous improvement cycles and progress monitoring, as well as instructional observation and feedback processes. To leverage leadership and support, the schools or the school plans need to be aligned with the strategic plan, as Dr. Proctor mentioned. So every school has a plan that is connected to our strategic plan. And it is not only one time and on the shelf plan, but it is living document where there will be sessions or learning sessions to support implementation of the school plans. We have grade level, monthly grade level sessions for administrators to learn together, as well as in addition to that, we have a collective learning. Also, we have individual support and follow up with the leaders to get individual coaching and support. And finally, continuous progress monitoring will be in place by conducting walkthroughs at the classroom level as well as the school level. So now actually we started with, yesterday we were in Portland High School and today there was at Casco Bay. So there are walkthroughs that to see the implementation or not only to have the plan, but also see what it means at the classroom level as well as at the school level. And we will also have step backs where we will at the school level as well as at the district level to see the progress in the implementation of the work. Thank you.
All right. What questions does the board have?
Yeah, so we're opening up for questions at this time. And we'll all
Should have
answer.
waited for permission. I apologize, Dr. Proctor.
No,
Okay. Board Member Bryden, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you to all three of you for the presentation. Really good information. I have a sort of a foundational question about the, if I understood, TSI and ATSI. One of them is a 3-year review, and one of them is a snapshot in time 1-year review, correct?
Correct.
So I guess and I understand that that those designations happen outside of, by, it's not the district making those determinations. But my question is, to better understand, I was surprised to not see any schools designated as both. So, right, so if it's a 3-year and also a 1-year, wouldn't there be some schools that would fall in both buckets?
Yeah, the state really looks at it in terms of a primary designation. We do have some schools, a handful of schools, that fell into both buckets. But what the state does is that they use a language that describes it as their primary identification for the period of time.
And does that have to do with, so let's say you have a school location that is in both buckets, which is the bucket that is more concerning based on the data, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Right. So it would be based on the data. It would be based on, which is the I guess you could say most concerning, but really what surfaces to the primary indicators that would lead to the designation.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay, that was my question. Thank you so much. Thanks, Chair.
Vice Chair Bando, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I was just to try to understand between those two categories of schools, and we have the TSI and ATSI. So I just want to see how severe, if you can, maybe not today, but how severe the difference between our student underperformed students.
Well, the good news
between those two categories.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So, again, with the categories and the designations, the definitions are set by the state.
Okay.
The good news is that there is a public-facing dashboard that we all have access to. And what I will do is ensure that all the board members are able to access the link. And it's really an interesting tool, because then you're able to really see where a specific school was identified, for what subgroups, for which of the indicators.
Okay.
And then with that, you could also see where some schools are identified within both categories, and which is the designation that surfaced as their primary designation, whether it be ATSI or TSI.
Okay, that's going to be so interesting, because the way I see some of our resource allocation is a lot of disparities on some of the schools who need a little more support to be out of the
Yes.
the categories. They are taking that one into consideration as well, or this is what the district's supposed to do?
Well, this is the school plans are required as a result of the designation. It's required by the main DOE. Again, it is the main DOE that sets the designations, but the main DOE also sets the exit criteria.
Okay.
And so the exit criteria looks at whether or not the school is having success in the category of student or student subgroups that brought them into the designation. And it has to be a sustained success, over like the period of 3 years.
So if we have that reflection back to us having those kind of distinctions, so it's give us a little open space to see where our resources need to be allocated, right? For the
Yes.
future.
Yeah.
Okay, I get it. That makes sense. And my last question is on the leadership development, I think, for all the principal. So I just wonder, for the whole student, we mentioned about connecting to community. So I know that a couple years ago, we really had a hard time to connect with families. So I wonder how the progress on the families engagement, parent engagement, through the process of the whole student, especially among minority population.
So the parent engagement around the entire school process is really key and very important. And even in the school improvement planning process, the state has, for example, a required form for some of our Title I schools that also fell within the designations. And there is opportunity through our school advisory councils or um, our school site councils that I'm translating language in my head from what it was called here to what we call it here. But site councils is like, for example, that key opportunity for schools and leaders to bring their parents and their community, the site council members together and to give updates and engagement around this process. And likewise, for individual students and to bring in families to have conversations about, student progress, that happens, whether it's in an MTSS process or RTI process, or it's through just ongoing communication and feedback. And, we give those reports out to families in a regular and consistent way.
That'd be interesting to see after the parent-teacher conference how much family engagement will be. So maybe we can get that one back later.
Yes, and that's also a great opportunity to invite families to be a part of the greater school community and involved in, for example, again, the site councils to ensure that they are able to hear about what's happening in the overall performance and of the school and the ratings of the school, because our communities take pride in their local school, and we want to make sure that families are engaged in talking about outcomes for all children.
Okay. My last questions, I'm so curious to learn some of the third grade reading achievement. So, because literacy is just my passion. So I wonder, during those development activities, can you just get me a little of the benchmark strategies than we do for that third reading assessment achievement? I just wonder.
Yeah. So right now we're kind of digging into our data. We have our data from students from when they were in second grade on the MCLASE and the foundational reading skills test assessment. So schools have dug into that data over the summer. We know that sometimes, there's the summer slide, but so we have the fall assessment period, which is just wrapping up. And so we'll look deeper into that data. With our data from the second grade, we were able to get students into interventions early whenever they started their third grade year. So that's one of the first strategies that we try and do at schools, is try and make sure that we're using that data from second grade to get students into support early on in our schools. Then kind of we look at the data again to see where there might be growth, where students might be able to, which students, need the support at that time. We're also just bringing that data to our teachers. This year we have included once a month, there's a data review with each grade level team. So not just at the third grade, but with the third grade, the fourth grade, and with all grades, so that they could look at the student data and kind of adjust their own instruction to the kids in their class. We also have, like at the third grade, we have Lexia, which is a reading program that we started using, I think, post-pandemic or around the pandemic to kind of help students recover. We are looking at, we've been using Boost Reading, which is another one it's a different program, but kids have been more engaged on it than Lexia, I will say.
Right.
So, and we were able to also use that with our Learning Works partners this summer. And so we're trying to see how we can help them use it even in our after-school program to help make that connection. So those are a couple ways that we're trying to really address that. At the third grade, we are seeing, like when we look at our second grade data this year, we are seeing that kids have, like, they're further along than our last year's third grade started coming in. So we kind of feel good about that progress. And I hate to kind of say it early before all the data's in, but that is some like early good news on that.
Yeah, that's good news. The only thing I just wonder, I know we cannot go back to couple years to get some data just right after the COVID, because I know we went down a lot of our elementary schools, especially first and second grade. They've been really down on the reading level. So I just want to have that comparison between those year and our growth, just to see how we've been doing. And some of those area of growth, then we need to improve. So just keep in your mind if you get those collection data somewhere, so I can have a table where I can compare both. Thank you so much for a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions from the board? Yeah, Board Member Slatel, go ahead.
Hi. I would like to have, just for my own understanding, definitions of a couple terms that were used. Starting with cognitive load transfer, what does that mean?
So with the cognitive load transfer, sometimes if you think about it, I'm going to put it in these terms and maybe just to keep it simple is, you think about the person that's standing and delivering instruction where it's a stand and get, but the research says that the person who does the talking is the one that's doing the learning. So the cognitive load transfer is how much we are able to deeply engage students in the learning process, that they are taking on the load of the critical thinking that's necessary for learning, that they are deeply engaged, that they are problem solving in that particular kind of way.
Okay, thanks. What is a district walkthrough?
So a district walkthrough is an opportunity where we have our curriculum teams and team members along with principals that go in to classrooms. There's a schedule that every school will receive a walkthrough. We have a walkthrough tool where we're looking at specific indicators or look-fors. That is everything from how well is the curriculum being implemented? Do we see the adopted curriculum in ELA, for example, being used? What are the teacher moves or practices? Do we see evidence of students deeply engaged in the learning? We do walkthroughs specifically for advisory. And so in looking at the advisory walkthroughs that are specific for that group in the secondary, we're also looking at SEL curriculum utilization. We're looking at, how well, the advisory teachers are able to make those connections with students. So, we have a set of walkthrough tools, but it really is our network teams in collaborations with our schools and school leaders, taking a snapshot look at how well instruction is happening across the school. And taking that data from the walkthrough, after you've visited so many classrooms in a school, you could calibrate the information from the tool to say, hey, these are the strength areas, and these are some other areas that maybe we can support the school a little bit more. So it's a way for us to also identify where we could support schools.
Thank you. Quick follow-up. The tool was developed by Portland schools, or is that something that is?
Oh, that's developed by specifically the Portland schools and the network teams.
Okay.
They've been working on that.
What is this? I'm sorry. What is a step back?
Uh-huh. So a step back, I used to call them quarterly reviews, but it's the meeting where we meet with our school leaders, also with our network team, which are supports, academic support, multilingual support, special ed support, climate and culture support. And we have a meeting with the school leader and their teams. And we are asking the questions about how well is it going with your school improvement plan? What is some early data that you can share to demonstrate some success that you are having? Where are you having struggles in the implementation of this plan? How could we on the network team support the school? So it's a listening session, and it's also a problem-solving session so that we are able to, again, support the leadership and support the school in continuing to make progress within their building.
Okay, thank you. I have a longer question about who sets the targets for the state and what does that mean, but I think people are going to kill me because we'll be here to midnight. I just had one other thing, and this maybe isn't directed at your team, but I remember when I was in the classroom, a lot of our students took exams using tools that quizzes and things that we developed on Google Classroom, and then we had to by hand transfer those grades into Infinite Campus, which was what we were using for a grading system. It was really time consuming. And then miraculously, one year we were able to just transfer those over and link the two. Some teachers have told me, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, that the data that is required for M-class assessment is really time consuming to enter, that they almost have to go student by student. It means very little to me. I'm just reporting this, and I'm not sure if they probably don't use Infinite Campus. And I don't know if it's Power School. I don't know what it is, but is there any way that we can make that process faster and still be reliable?
Well, I'll ask Angela and Abdulhi to share a little bit more, because like you, I am still getting to know what that process looks like and how M-class is being uploaded and translated. But I think, we are in a prime position because of our strategic plan that we're looking at making a number of data improvements. We've already come a long way thanks to Haley's leadership. And we do have continuous ways that we are looking at streamlining many of these processes. And so I'll ask Angela to speak specifically to M-class and how that works.
I'm sure we can streamline things, but it is a little bit of a process, which I think we will need some support on. There are some parts of M-class that do require teacher engagement, and some of that is actually really good because it means they're working individually with the student and they get to see like how kids are doing on that assessment. We had been using another assessment, the Early Bird tool, in our lower grades that didn't require as much engagement. And one of the kind of downsides of that assessment was that teachers weren't directly engaged with students as they were taking the assessment. And so they would like review it afterwards and could see the data, but it's a little bit of a different experience if you're sitting there listening to a kid do the task or watching them do the task. So the M-class tool does require some teacher engagement in that part. And I mean, I think it would be, curious. I mean, I'll go back and check and see, like, would it be easier if we did do it in a Google Classroom? We don't really use Google Classroom very much at the elementary level because it's not a tool that we have a lot of like familiarity with or facility with. So, but it certainly is worth looking to see if it were entered that way, would that help us streamline? And that's something I can look into. In general, we are trying to look at that because we don't want folks to be having to double entry or do things. Yeah, but I think it's a little bit of an ongoing process, but yeah. We do offer some support to teachers that have like large classrooms to help them do the M-class assessment. So there are different ways that we've tried. Our instructional coaches spend a lot of time to support around the assessments, but like I said, I'm sure that there are ways that we could streamline and just maybe kind of finding the right tools and the right way to do it. Yeah.
Thank you. Board Member Opperman, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I have a couple pieces of information that I want, which I don't think we can get here. And that is when you were talking about it, 8A, TSI and TSI, and you were saying the different categories like disability, economic, 2 or more languages. What I was wondering, and you said different schools had different ones, would it be possible to know which schools had which particular piece needs? And also, what does that look like?
Yeah.
What does, an economic difficulty look like? What does, multilingual, is it just the number of kids, or is it the kids that have what their level of,
Yeah.
I'd
It's,
love to see that data.
yeah, for sure. And I'll note again that there's a state dashboard that I could definitely.
I got it.
You got it up?
Well, I got up the one, the basic list that you showed. I don't know if where it links down. I'll find the link to the other way. Yeah, it's, I tell people about this. It's
There
the
should be
DOE.
a tab at the upper left corner that will give you some.
Okay, I
see
will.
the tabs across the top.
I see. I will find that,
So
and
click
I
the
will.
first one, yeah.
I'll play with that.
Yeah.
But
I'll
that's
definitely send it out to all the board with some instructions so that you could easily see.
yeah, it's the
what that-
main data warehouse, and it's just loaded with all the stuff that we talk about for everybody, all of the state, which makes it hard. The other thing is, where can we see the SIPs for all the different schools? I don't know, where is it on? Is there a file folder online somewhere? What does each school's plan look like? That would be something I'd like to see.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm generally hearing from the board that as much data that you wanted to share around this,
Oh, we love
you
it.
would take it. I mean, this is I think the first time that we've talked about this as a board level. So really being able to orient ourselves to it would be really helpful. And we do have some
Yeah,
data
I'd love
nerds.
to have an opportunity to not just share the dashboard. I don't want to leave you alone with it, but maybe give some guidance or have some discussion and how you say, do a walkthrough together with it. Also, just to go back, the indicators are, the state indicators are really drawn from our attendance patterns when it comes to chronic absenteeism. It's really drawn from our state assessment when they look at proficiency and growth and student achievement. And so out of their indicators, and it's really about our suspension data when they look at school climate. So it's really a combination of some of the information around attendance and suspensions that we upload to the state, in addition to the outcomes on the state assessment that drives how the state is calculating and determining criteria.
Thank you. I just had a couple of questions, which is there any correlation between this and the funding formula at the state? Like, do they talk to each other at all? Do you know?
Nope.
Not that I'm aware of.
Nope.
It's interesting.
No, they do not.
Okay.
If not, they should.
And noted for legislative committee. And at what point of the year are these updated?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know our results tend to come back in May. And then the state goes through a process, but there is a year lag on the data from how the state is designating the schools. But I can dig a little further and make sure that I have a clear date that I'm able to, a timeline, if you will, that I could also share so that you know when the designations are updated annually for some of those designations.
Thank you. That would be helpful. And is there, and I would also be interested in just learning if there's any categories that we're really good at, like not only the ones that we're falling short on, but if we have the strengths around those subcategories, I'd be interested in that. And then also, you talked about the exit criteria. What happens if there isn't progress?
The school continues to be identified. So it's either an annual designation or a every 3-year designation. But the annual designation is for ATSI. The every 3-year designation is for TSI. If you are not meeting exit criteria, you continue in that designation. Or your designation may shift if you make improvement, if you had multiple categories and you fell under TSI, you could shift, based on the criteria, your criteria may shift you to another identification, even though you didn't exit fully off of the list completely.
Thank you. That's helpful. Any other questions from board members? Let me just double check that board member Noor doesn't have any questions. Okay, thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and do a quick recess before we get a few more things. I'm sorry, but I need to go to the restroom, so we're gonna have a 10-minute recess. We'll be right back. you could hear me. Thank you. All right. So we are back.
2.5 years.
And up next, we've got personnel. Here comes Jennifer Slabink. She'll walk us through.
Thank you. I don't know that you need me to walk through because it's kind of the same every time, but this is, for this particular board report, we have 4 teachers that we are putting forth for a board vote, and they are all probationary teachers with some salary proration going on because now we're moving into that time of the year.
Thank you. So do I have a motion for the consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed, election of teacher candidates probationary? Thank you, Board Member Bryden. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Ali. Any questions from the board? Okay. Any general discussion, as we don't take any public comment on personnel items? Then by roll call vote, please indicate whether you are in favor of the consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed, election of teacher candidates probationary. Dr. Warren, will you please call the roll?
Member Ali?
Yes.
Member Yusra Ali?
Yes.
Vice Chair Bondo?
Yes.
Member Bryden?
Yes.
Member Lena?
Yes.
Member Noor?
Yes.
Member Opperman?
Yes.
Member Sautel?
Yes.
Student Representative Fitzgerald? Student Representative Kantiba? Student Representative Lee? Student Representative O'Brien? Student Representative Ziegler? Chair Lentz?
Yes, so the motion passes unanimously by board members.
You.
Thank you. And up next, we have some new business. We have some first reads of some policies. I'm not sure, Superintendent, if that is you speaking to these or a combination of folks.
No, Sarah Warren will speak to them, and then I will do the last new business item.
And Chair, if it's okay, I will present from my seat tonight.
Yeah, that would be perfectly fine.
Okay. All right, so these are fairly brief, and this is just a first read. These are 2 policies that need just a little bit of cleanup and editing. So let me just quickly give an overview of what the committee has passed on now to the full board. And this is for your consideration this evening and for your vote at the next meeting. So the first one is JICIA, Weapons, Violence, and School Safety. And the second is IJNDB, which is the student use of school-issued computers, devices, and the internet. The first one, JICIA, is quite simple, and I will pull up the document in just a second, but it's just 2 small changes. One is a change in wording at the beginning, and then the other was a change, oops, there's a typo there, sorry for not catching that. A change from Kung Fu stars to throwing stars, which is more culturally appropriate and sensitive. We did, while opening up this policy, take a look through it and have our lawyers go through it to make sure there was nothing else that needed to be addressed other than these wording changes, and there was nothing of any note. So that one was voted through by the policy committee to the full board for review. And then policy IJNDB, and in your board documents, you'll see the rules as well, the associated rules, which again, board doesn't vote on the rules, but the rules are created by staff and they align to the policy in order to provide the specific procedures through which a policy will be implemented. So we would have associated updates to the rules. So the proposed changes to INDB bring that into alignment with policy JFCK, which is the policy that the board updated in June around student use of personal electronic devices. There was a significant chunk of language in IJNDB that referred to personal device use at school, which is no longer an option under JFCK. So that needed to be changed. And then again, the rules are there. I'm not going to walk through those tonight. So let me just quickly shift to the policies themselves for a minute so that you can see them. Uh, Sharing. Right. So first I will give you a quick look at JICIA. Oops. Again, this is the policy around weapons, violence, and school safety. And as I noted before, there's just a simple change in the first line, changing it from the Portland Board of Public Education to Portland Public Schools. There is a simple wording change there in the second paragraph. And then the change of the language in section A there to make that more culturally sensitive. And that is really all that's being recommended for this policy, aside from a change in lettering here. So capital letter for the board. So pretty relatively small changes on that one. So let me just pause there and share if there are any questions or anything.
Any questions on that policy? Nope. Go
Okay.
ahead to the next.
Okay, great. So IJNDB, this is the policy around the student use of school-issued computers, devices, and the internet. Most of this would stay the same. Not a lot of recommended changes in the beginning. Oops. Missing the red lines here. Sorry, I don't know why. Somehow there's something missing in the document. It's the way it was uploaded. Let me see if I can pull up a different version.
Sarah, if you pull it up from the shared drive.
Yeah, that's where I'm trying to get it from, but the version I've got up right now does not, has a lot of weird formatting.
Is this the one you're looking for?
Yeah, that's the one, but I was trying to avoid the weird formatting, but yeah, let's go with that. Sorry, I don't know what happened with the PDF version, but, okay, so let's go with this version. So first of all, the shift in language from use of privately owned computers and devices for school purposes to personal electronic devices, which aligns to the shift in language that was made when policy JFCK was adopted in June. And then a general statement at the top here that any student use of personal electronic devices not issued by Portland Public Schools must be in alignment or in accordance with policy JFCK. So just an outright statement that this needs to align to that new policy. And then that strikes a lot of the language that used to be there around use of student-owned devices, because that's no longer allowed under JFCK. And why we have that red box there, I don't know. And then under D, there's the lawyers have recommended striking that one phrase because it's somewhat repetitive, and they didn't think it was necessary to state that explicitly. And down below under section F, this is just a minor wording change, striking his, her, and just stating designee. And then in the cross references, again, changing the language to match what JFCK is now called. And just note that whenever we're looking at a policy like this, once adopted and voted on, we would then update the dates and change those accordingly. So those are the key points there.
Any questions on this policy? Yeah, Board Member Upperman, go ahead.
This isn't what's on the diligent.
Yeah, there's something wrong with the version that got uploaded. I can't
Okay.
figure out why it's missing. There's a gap in it. So I will,
Fix it.
yeah, I'll go back and fix it. I'm not sure what, yeah, there's something wonky going on in this uploaded version.
Thank you.
Okay. It doesn't seem like we have any other questions. Let me just double check on Board Member Noor. I don't see her hand. So thank you. So folks, if there's any amendments that you'd like to propose, please make sure to do that to the board by email before the next meeting. And then we'll vote on those on October 14th. Superintendent, do you want to speak to the fiscal year 26 budget?
Yeah, so I'm actually really excited that we're in a spot as a finance team that we're able to provide these updates. So one of the things that board policy asks for is an update whenever there is more than a $50,000 transfer from one category, state category, to another. And this has not been something that the finance team has been able to do on a timely manner in the past, but just a real credit to Lisa Beck and Heather and Clarice and Suleiman for the work that they have done, that we're now able to do this on a monthly basis. And so I will give a moment in a second to Board Member Bryden if she wants to share anything from the committee discussion, but I will just share that what you see here is not a change in the overall budget, but is in fact an update based on the budget year to date about where there have needed to be adjustments within state categories. And state categories are regular instruction, special education instruction, CTE instruction, other instruction, et cetera. They're listed in the board memo. They're defined by the state. The state allows for a transfer of up to 5% of the budgeted amount out of a category. We're nowhere near that for any of the areas where we're talking about a transfer out. And so what this is in fact doing is recognizing where personnel costs are different than originally budgeted, where some contracted pieces are different than originally budgeted. And so we're providing this update. And so this is a first read, the memo's in diligent, and you can see the exact changes and how the money moves in the motion that's listed at the bottom. And we will have this for a vote, assuming you are in favor of that at the next meeting as a second read. Board Member Bryden, is there anything you would want to add?
Just quickly, that was a great explanation. Thank you. I also would acknowledge, I really appreciate in the committee meeting the reminder and the explanation, sort of recentering on the fact that a budget is a budget. It's not a prediction of what is going to be spent on every category, and just the very nature of the way these things work. Sometimes a budget amount will be X and then we'll actually end up spending Y, and then so things shift. And I really appreciate the level of transparency that we're able to give to the community. And I want to acknowledge the hard work of the finance team, as you were saying, at getting us to a point where we can be doing this closer to real time and giving the community the transparency that it deserves. So thank you.
Thank you, Board. I'm sorry, I was deep in this memo. Yes, Board Member Lena, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just wondering about the different categories, and I see that regular instruction is a significant amount of money is being removed from that. Can you talk a little bit more about what the money's not being spent on for regular instruction that it was originally allocated for?
Yeah, there's two things that are really driving that. One is that we use an estimated salary when we're setting the budget. And the estimated salary for teachers is a little bit lower the actual salary is a little bit lower than what the average was. I think it's around $1,000. And with over 600 teachers, that is a big driver of this. The second area is around vacancies. So if folks can think back to the budget process, we tried something new this year, which is that we didn't assume that all of the positions would be filled the whole year, that we recognize that there's a reality of a vacancy rate that exists within our district or within any organization. We set the vacancy rate very small because this was our first time dipping our toe into this. And so we set it at a little bit less than 1%. The vacancy rate, when you factor this time of year hiring, so somebody who was budgeted to start July 1, but in reality started on August 1, those kind of changes, that is where our vacancy rate is higher than that 0.75%. And so that's the other piece. When we've talked about this in the past, one of the things that can become confusing is about whether or not this is a decision to then not fill a position. That is not that. It is simply recognizing that if an individual is not in the role in July, August, September, you can't go back in time to fill that. And so it's more like recognizing that in the current moment, that is savings that are recognized here and then used to pay or to budget for unanticipated costs.
Other questions from the board on this? Okay. Well, thank you for that. And around this, I think there wouldn't necessarily be an amendment there. We would just have a vote on it because it's being presented as is on the, but I think if folks want to go back and watch the Finance Committee meeting for additional context and then bring any questions for the next time, you certainly could. So thank you for that. And with that, I'm going to move to adjourn. Is there a second? Thank you, Board Member Opperman. All those in favor? So we are adjourned at 8:54 p.m.